Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part two of my interview with Sergey Yakubovskiy, economist living in Odessa, Ukraine. Serg, one question I wanted to follow up with you on was what's the motive for Russia invading the Ukraine? Is it an economic motive or a political motive?
Uh, I think that maybe for Russian leader, it's the question of his role in the world. Many Russians think those who support war of Russia against Ukraine that they Russia doesn't struggle with Ukraine, that Russia fights with the United States. The idea is that many people in Russia think that United States try to increase its influence on Ukraine. So maybe in future Ukraine can become the member of NATO and maybe some military bases of United States will be in Ukraine. So it's propaganda, it's Russia propaganda. But I think that maybe even majority of Russians think that now there is no threat from Ukraine, but in future, if Ukraine becomes a member of NATO, then there will be NATO troops on the territory of Ukraine, and maybe in future they will attack Russia. So
do people really believe it? Do you think it's a propaganda, or does anyone really believe that NATO had any plans to invade that part of Russia that borders Ukraine? Like, I mean, it to me still seems so improbable from where I sit.
so I'm Ukrainian, so and I understand that Ukraine. I think that will never be member of NATO. Why? Because there are many countries in NATO that are against Ukrainian membership. It's first of all Hungary, then Turkey, then Germany, and others. I understand it, but in Russia, just to show the problem uh, that is not exist, as you said, propaganda. They use this. I remember the time when I was a little boy, or when I studied at school, and when the Soviet Union attacked Afghanistan, when it was war of the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, and I heard the same words of propaganda that if Russian troops didn't come to Afghanistan, then the US troops would come to Afghanistan and then attack the Soviet Union. I heard these crazy words, and I think now it's the same in Russia. Very big propaganda. What Putin has already won during this war. Uh, it got the opportunity to close all independent mass media in Russia. For example, I like to read независимая газета in Russia,
The
or
independent.
independent newspaper. It's the name of newspaper, and it was good. Or there were also many Russian journalists and that tried to be independent in the past. But now, even one word against Russia in newspaper or on Russia TV, and person could be arrested for 15 years. That's why some newspapers, some mass media were closed in Russia. So And now I think that it's very, very difficult for Russians to get independent information about what is happening in Russia, what is happening in Ukraine. That's why I think that the majority of people, as it was before the perestroika in the Soviet Union, they trust to those who are able to express their point of view on TV.
But Seryoja, to Rudy's question, like if Putin is fighting the United States, what is the driver? I mean, how can do you think there was a long-term kind of plan and a long game of, and this is how sanctions will work, and then I will align as Putin with China and India, and I'll get even stronger? I mean, do you think it's all coincidental or an actual plan that somehow is working just like Putin intended?
So I think it's a long plan, long-term plan. So Putin tries to organize coalition against European Union and the United States. You know that Trump started anti-Chinese policy in the United States, and there were many trade conflicts between the United States and China, and even some not big but military conflicts in near the China, because yes, China tries to take Taiwan in future, and they, I think, will do this like Russia in Ukraine. But maybe a bad experience of Russia will teach China. But we'll see. But it's a big coalition against the United States, India, China, many other countries of East Asia, of Africa, uh, maybe Iraq, Iran, of course. So it's a long-term plan. That's why it will be very difficult to to destroy Russia economy now. But from my point of view, the only thing that will help us is time. Time, as it was during the Stalin times. Only after the death of Stalin, the Soviet Union was changed. So I hope.
Only after the death of Putin will
Yes, I mean,
change.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it could happen soon. Why? Because the oligarchs of Russia are suffered are suffered now from the sanctions. Who are in trouble now in Russia is the middle class and very rich Russians. They have lost a lot. I don't think that it is possible now to change the power in Russia, but in future, in a year, two, three, I think that these oligarchs, very rich Russians, they are clever. They are not so stupid as others around Putin. So I think they will try to do something, but it's not possible to do in a week, in a month, because I think that Putin this understand. But in future, in a year or two, eh, we can hope that something will be happen in Russia. But now we need peace in Ukraine, and let's wait that things will be changed in Russia. I don't know any chances, other chances,
no, but in a
to
way,
change Russia
sanctions.
or to change the Russian policy.
Well,
I
if the
mean,
war ended tomorrow, how long would it take the Ukrainian economy to recover? How many years?
So it depends on the negotiations and on the uh, security guarantees that Ukraine hope to have. That's why it's very important to involve the United States in these negotiations. What Ukraine wants, I think that we can agree with many demands of Russia. We don't have chance to stay in this for months. As I said, people are killed, and every day the economic potential of Ukraine is destroying. So we need to stop this war as soon as possible. But what we need? We need to have guarantees that this will not happen soon. So Ukrainian government has prepared text of this treaty, and we are asking United States and the Great Britain to guarantee that those parts of Ukraine that will remain Ukrainian, that this part will be defended from new aggression from Russia. And then we will expect very quick recovery of the economy, as it happened with Germany after the Second World War, as it happened with Japan, as it happened with China after Mao Zedong, when China opened its economy for foreign investors, and they renovate China, and that's why China is so strong now, because foreign investors came 30 years ago to China, and foreign direct investments helped to build new industries in China. The same, I think, could happen in Ukraine, but if investors will know that the war will not start again. Only in this case.
Yes.
Otherwise, it will be like in Prидnestrovia, Transnistria, in Moldova. So we will be in very bad conditions for ages.
If it's
Because
occupation,
like in Iraq, in Syria, in Libya, so without these guarantees of security in future, foreign investors will not come. But to have this guarantee, we need United States and China. We also invite China, but I don't think that China wants to take part in this negotiation. But I think that United States must do this, because during last 80 years we heard a lot from the United States that we will not leave Ukraine, we would help you. But now we need uh, United States in these negotiations, and we need guarantee of security from the United States after the war will be stopped. Otherwise, no recovery for Ukrainian economy, and a lot of refugees, like in Syria, Iraq, Libya.
Well, the rebuilding of the Ukrainian economy is going to involve basically aid from a number of countries, but also direct foreign investment again. And as you said, people are going to need to have some sense of stability to know that their investment is not going to be subject to another war. Correct? Otherwise, who's going to invest in the Ukraine? It's like, for example, who's going to invest in Afghanistan? What U.S. company is going to invest in Afghanistan? Or I'm sure some do, but the companies you and I are more familiar with, why even bother? I mean, you can imagine the cost of, say, McDonald's and other companies that have stopped doing business in Russia, and what it's cost them in the millions of dollars, right? So why even get into that if you're not sure about the stability of a country, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. I was a political science major before I went to law school, Sergey. And one of the things I learned early on is it's not about politics, it's about economics. People really don't care who govern them. What they care about is a safe place, a roof, food, um, and being able to live out their lives. That's what people really want. And oftentimes they really don't care who's governing them.
Well, as long as those conditions exist and are provided. So yes, if it's all stable, you know, you can put up with a lot. And
yeah, people will put up with it. And I think what'll happen is if the sanctions do take effect, the Russian oligarchs are hurting. That would most likely be Putin's downfall with the oligarchs, I believe. That they may.
The only chance. The only chance.
Yeah, it's the only chance to survive. Sergey, what is everyone's view of your president? I mean, here he is a hero. He's always getting standing ovations, and I'm thinking I tend to be a cynic. You know, stop giving him standing ovations and give him what he needs.
Yes.
Give him the no-fly zone. You know, give him airplanes that he can battle the Russians with. You know, enough of this standing up there and saying, "Gee, you're great." One of the favorite lines he said when they offered to take him out of the country, he says, "I need bullets, not a ride. The fight is here." Well, what's the feeling of the Ukrainian people towards your president?
So I didn't vote for Zelensky, but I think that now he is doing a good job. I hope so. You know that. So I told you about Russia, about the closed mass media, but in Ukraine, telling the truth, it's wartime. That's why a lot of information is closed. So we don't know. For example, when the United States take part in any military operations, people know how many Americans were killed. Now we don't know about the situation. How many civilians were killed in Mariupol? How many our soldiers were killed? What is happening in economy? We don't know. It's closed information. We see only our president and few people around him, and they say that everything is fine. So some days and we will win the war. And so there are a lot of losses from Russian Federation. So thousands of Russians were killed. Just that the Ukrainians destroyed almost all in Russian Federation troops. So, but we don't know about what is happening in Ukraine in reality. Even when this attack on Odessa region, we don't know what is happening, what was destroyed, how many people were killed, or something else. That's why maybe our president is doing mistakes now. Maybe I don't know. We don't know anything. For example, with this strategy in Mariupol, I think that maybe not everything was done in a good direction. I don't know. But now there is very big support of president. What we know, he is doing well. But I think that there will be very big problem for him when this peaceful treaty will be signed with Russia, because due to Ukrainian propaganda, we also have propaganda now. Many people think that we shouldn't stop the war because in a few months Putin will be killed. That in a few months our troops will be able to come to Russia or even come to Moscow. So just I think that 30 or 20% of Ukrainians think that it's possible to win in the war and to not to give Russia any territory, but even to try to take for example, the Crimea back. From my point of view, it is impossible. Why? Because Russia has nuclear weapons and so missiles, and so they are too strong now for Ukrainian army. So we are not able to win this war because they are stronger. They have a lot of people who are very poor, who agree for $30-40 for $300-400 per month to sign contract with the Russian army and to go to Ukraine. So they have resources for long war. In Ukraine, we don't have such an opportunity.
Well,
But many people think that we can fight for ages. And then, when I hope this agreement will be signed, I think that a lot of people will be against Zelensky. And a lot of people, or maybe some people in military forces will be against it. What history? Yes, what is Brestский мир?
The Brest
Uh,
Agreement?
yes, yes. It was in 1918,
Or
last century, when Russia, after revolution, had to sign this agreement with Germany. Rudy, do you know about this?
right, the Non-Aggression Pact that
yes, non-aggression pact.
they
Yes.
Yeah,
fought.
Mhm.
and after this agreement, the civil war started in Russia, and Odessa was part of Russia in that time. So just it's the history of the Soviet Union. So after this agreement, after this treaty, civil war started, and I afraid that something like this could be happen in Ukraine. That some part of Ukraine, from west part of Ukraine, they would be strictly against any peace with Russia. But from my point of view, I heard a lot of stories from people from Mariupol. So we must stop this war because if the same situation will happen in Odessa like in Mariupol, so it will be tragedy and hundreds of thousands of people will be killed in Odessa. So we should stop
Well,
this war.
yes, everyone wants peace. I think the question of, surrendering territories is just so painful. I mean, Crimea is Crimea, but that's kind of, how do you get away with invading a country, taking their land, and then saying, okay, well, maybe we will not attack you anymore.
Well, and there are people who I'm sure there's some people in the Ukraine who believe we should have just held up our hands, let the Russians come in. There's no bloodshed. Russia, Ukraine, who cares? Things keep going. But I don't know if anyone's ever done an analysis of what would happen if that were the case. What would the Russians have done? For example, when you look at Belarus is a puppet government of Russia, right? So they're not at war. There's a puppet controlled, so life goes on, I guess, as usual for most people. Would that have happened in the Ukraine also? If the Ukraine would have said, okay, come on in, Russia, what do you think would have happened?
No, I don't think that people in Ukraine will say this. Putin expected that the
Exactly.
majority of Ukrainians will be happy to see Russian troops here, but it's not true, and this will never happen in
So
Ukraine
may I
because
just ask, Seroj, I'm sorry, but I have to just ask for clarification. I think what you were saying is that if Zelensky signs a peace agreement, some people will be disappointed because they feel we should have continued fighting and taking the entire country back. That's the issue.
yes, it's very dangerous issues because I phrase it's not some people. I think that will be millions of people from the west part of Ukraine because what happened. Only part of Ukraine now is suffered from the war. Eastern part and some parts of south. Western part that is far from Russian borders. They're doing not good, but not so bad as territory where there is a war. And for those people, I think the war is not so dangerous. they receive some aid from the Western Europe. Even some factories from east part of Ukraine, they moved to west part of Ukraine. And so I think that economic activity will be even increased in Lvov, in Ivano-Frankivsk, and other parts of Ukraine. And they are very far from Russia. But for those who have been attacked, or for those
Yes.
who
When the war comes to
Russian militaries, so we want to stop this war because people are killed every day. So, but we don't want to have Russians in Odessa or in Nikolaev. But maybe they will remain in some parts of Ukraine, on the east part of Ukraine, like it was after Brestski agreement.
that, yes,
But it's for a time. Uh, Even if Putin will live as long as Stalin, then after Stalin, only 2 years. In 2 years, a lot was changed during Khrushchev and others. So this Putin's empire will
yeah,
the collapse of
fall
Putin's empire
apart.
after, I think, very soon, in months or in years. So let's wait for this or oligarchs. I think that in future, when the war will be stopped, then I think we will see changes in Russia. But until there is a war, until there is censura in Russia, as
Censorship, yeah.
we
I,
cannot
I
change.
saw something on the news yesterday concerning what you were talking about, Sergey, and that is in some parts of the Ukraine, people are at coffee shops. Their life as usual. They interviewed a law student from the Ukraine, and if you're there, it doesn't seem like the war's affected anything. And then you go to Mariupol and you see all the devastated buildings. It's quite a contrast.
It's a
Yes.
horror.
It's quite a contrast, yeah. I mean, even during World War One and Two, there were many areas in France that weren't touched. People lived a normal life, and yeah, I guess you have the same situation here. In some parts of the Ukraine, the war is more of a reality than it is in other places, and I imagine it's more of a reality for you living in Odessa. Oh, one final question, Sergey: how are you and your family doing with all of this?
We are good. So I think months ago, so my wife were looking. We are looking for a way how to evacuate our children. So what is the major thing now in Odessa is fear, strach.
Fear,
So
yeah, fear.
yeah, yes.
Here,
So 2 or 3 times, sometimes tonight, we heard the voice of air, воздушная тревога,
Yes,
air.
the air sirens, the attacks, you hear
And so they are
the
so
explosions.
loud, and so I think that who are suffering the most now in Odessa, are children. So my older child is the boy, so he's 13 and a half, and so for these people, for young people, it's very bad situation for their minds. They afraid that bomb will
Well,
come and kill and will kill them. So just junior one who is 5 years old, he's fine. So tanks, missiles. Oh, let's look where is they. But for this for juniors, it's very
well, and,
for
and,
them.
and as a parent, I'm a parent. When your child is afraid and suffering, I'm sure you're suffering with them. It's impossible.
I think that this is the main reason for the majority of those who leave Odessa, because they saw their child and they took them just in a more safety place.
Well, thank you, Sergey. I know you've got a lot of important things to worry about in Odessa, and want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to share this platform with you. Ellen and I feel it's very important that we get as many voices out as you can, because people on the news don't always get the complete truth. There's always what I call derivatives from the truth. There's also things, as you know, like revisionist history, where people rewrite things to suit themselves, and that's why we set up this platform. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on. Elena, thank you for being on this with me. Thank you for arranging for Sergey to come on. And again, I ask all my viewers, please subscribe, click like, and do whatever you can to support our friends and brothers in the Ukraine, either financial support, whatever. I don't know. How can we help?
Well, I mean, and that's what I was kind of asking, military aid aside, is there anything that could be done for children or for people in Odessa in the eastern areas now? What would be something that, other than all the love and moral support we're sending to you, what can we do to make it any better at all? Is there a way to do it?
So you're doing a lot, so please speak with us. Write messages to us. Say that you hope to see us in Odessa. So, what are you doing?
Yes, well, yes, it is there, but
Be in touch with us.
yes, I mean, I heard that, Rudy, actually, from many people, when you can't raise too much money or get to them, to say that the kind of moral support and being heard by the West and having an outreach from the friends means just as much as, having a money transfer in a bank account sometimes.
Well, one day when this war is over with, I've been to the Ukraine. One day when war is over with, Elena will hook up in the Ukraine.
Yes,
and
we should
we'll
go
meet with Sergey, and we'll meet with everyone we've talked with, and celebrate a peacetime coffee.
That would be beautiful. Have a great day, everyone. Pleasure to talk to you, and all the best. Our thoughts are with you.
Our thoughts are with you too. Bye-bye.